Hello everyone, I am Dr. Dream and my partner Laura Eisenhower, and we welcome you to this presentation. And we've had just a wonderful time being here today. And this presentation, while Laura and I are, for our living, we speak, we present, we go to conferences, we go to events, we create our own events when there aren't other events for us. But today's talk is different for us. And we've gone through an awful lot in the last several months. And this is the first time that we've presented together since, I guess, last August. So I'm just setting this up because this is a very special experience for us. And we feel very fortunate to be sharing this with each person that's here. Our life has been about being authentic. It has been about being transparent. And we share an awful lot. We're told we maybe share more than we should share. And to us, that doesn't make any sense at all, because what we're here for and what we've chosen to do is to speak and to share our truth. And so that crosses into everything that our life is about and what gives us meaning. So today, this talk is aptly titled in the sense of being like an umbrella title that can cover anything we're going to talk about for the next hour. Our talk is Energy Dynamics, Pushing the Envelope. And for us, this has been all about, you know, how we run energy. Everybody runs energy. Everybody works in energetic. And we do this when we're in whatever our chosen profession is. We do this whenever we're in our chosen relationship and the relationship with all those around us. And it's working energy. And so for us, the question becomes, well, okay, so that's what's happening, and we're all in this experience of energy dynamics. So what does it mean to push the envelope? And how can we get through this embodied human experience and be in business and be, you know, like interacting in that matrix, and be in relationship and be interacting in that matrix, and be in relation to our entire reality? So how do we do that? And what does it mean to push the envelope? And what are these energy dynamics that are involved? And how can they help us have an experience that is more full of grace and ease than perhaps the experience that we're already having? Okay? So that's what we're here to talk with you about. You'll notice it's not scripted. There's no PowerPoint. We've never done this before. This is fresh, exciting, and really comes from a very deep place for us. And so again, it's our honor to share this with you. And so Laura, if you'd like to come up, and actually we'll do just a little bit of sound to move some energies, but then you know, talk about what this means to you in energy dynamics and pushing the envelope, and kind of in all aspects. And if you want to bring in some of our experience and what's happened in the last few months. This crystal bowl is the crown chakra, and the crown chakra is our connection to spirit and all things spiritual. So it's a nice tone for us to bring into the introduction of this talk, reinforcing our connection to spirit.
Hi everybody, great to be here. Thank you for being here with us. There's always just so much to share in terms of, you know, working energy, pushing the envelope, especially in these times where there's a lot of pressure on us. There's a lot of information coming out, a lot of people searching the internet trying to find answers, and you know, still walk a path that is about balance and, you know, love. I'm sure we all have that in common, and looking out for our families, our relationships, and our relationship with ourselves. And sometimes that's not very easy in the sort of world we live in. And this is what pushing the envelope is all about, because we need to challenge a lot of the stuff that we were raised with. And it's difficult when the people that raised us are very afraid of stepping out of the box, I guess you could say. What will people think, and this and that. And we're being really pushed to the edge in this particular window period, and we have been for a long time when it comes to so many different things. We have our physical body, our emotional body, our spiritual body, our mental body, and our emotional body, and they all, function very similar as far as what accumulation and release means. We can tell in our physical environment when something needs to be tended to, because it's obvious. We see it with our eyes. But in the rest of all that we are, sometimes it's difficult to know when we've overloaded ourselves on a mental level or emotional level. Certainly I don't think we can overload ourselves on a spiritual level, except we get really floaty, and sometimes it's hard to ground. But at the same time, being grounded, particularly into Gaia, is not necessarily about the mundane reality that we are born into. And it takes a lot of courage to just say, I'm going to choose that world over the one that maybe we were raised in. But that's really where we draw strength from the planet. And it's important to understand that this is an Ascension planet. It was seeded with a 13-dimensional core. And when it comes to seeds and the seeds that we hold, there's an unfoldment. And I think a lot of people worry about what their purpose is and who they truly are. And at times we lose connection with the simplicity. And the beauty is that the simplicity is that we are unfolding. There's different developmental stages. We all have a different garden that we chose to incarnate into. And for some, maybe there's a gardener that likes to stomp on the flowers. For others, we might notice just a lot of interferences. And pushing the envelope is basically, taking a stand and understanding that we don't have to put up with it. There's ways to shield ourselves. There's ways to navigate around it. There's ways to increase our frequency above the different assaults that we're seeing. And so when it comes to pushing the envelope, it does relate to all these different systems. On a physical level, maybe pushing the envelope of not doing that job that we groan about every day and have to show up for. Maybe having a radical shift in our diet. Maybe changing our physical environment, or being willing to do that move that we feel called to do. Leaving maybe what's familiar and going into the great unknown. On an emotional level, it might mean that we're vulnerable and we share our feelings and we expose ourselves. And we, press the release valve, understanding that, we don't want to have our waters muddied. And then on an air level, sharing our thoughts and ideas and not being afraid of what other people will think. And then, of course, the fire element, which is all about passion. And the thing is, when we internalize too much of this, it throws us out of balance. And we have to really just sort of let go and allow everything to fall into place by not internalizing and shoving it all in. So, pushing the envelope, to me, is like liberation and creating movement and creating action. And dropping, the concern about anything, in the outside world about what anybody will think, because we have to remember, there's a lot of negative ego self-talk, whether it's from a place of maybe self-righteousness and feeling one has all the answers, to feeling insecure and unworthy. And we have to understand that we don't have really time for the negative ego anymore and all that talk that it does. We have to understand that Gaia is calling us. There's a great need, and so we should really validate ourselves and be proud of ourselves for stepping out of a certain comfort zone. Our culture has, it's woven a sort of tapestry of deception in a lot of ways. There's a lot of initiations that we're going through right now that are very difficult without having some sort of support. When we go through the dark night of the soul, sometimes it's very easy to almost feel like we don't want to be here anymore and life is just too much. When we get zapped by a planet like Uranus, we might feel like we're having a nervous breakdown and a crisis because we feel like we can't control our environment. And this is where, we really have to just step back and surrender a little bit and embrace, the process. And because we're in such an advanced physical vessel, which is pretty much the most advanced technology that's been imitated for thousands of years, so that we forget that the real power is here and we just look outside of ourselves. The segue being belief systems and different systems that we might, give our power away to. It's important that we understand that we just need our own instructions. We need our own dream energy. We need our own visions to be circulating through our creative channels. And we need to, flush out the stuff that really doesn't belong, And so pushing the envelope is, just taking that leap into what it means to be authentic, what it means to really be living a real life in connection with Gaia, and understanding that whatever box we were born into, is one that we can climb out of, because we're multidimensional beings, and it's a huge favor and service to everybody. No matter what names they may throw and what labels, we are planting seeds, we are making a difference, and we are multidimensional beings, so it doesn't, do us any good to be in the box. So with these incredible initiations that are happening in this ascension window period we're in, unification is extremely important. So Dr. Dream and I have such a shared path when it comes to wanting to help people through some of these passages and some of these difficulties, so that the tendency isn't to, maybe run for the medication or run for, really owning, a lot of judgment about whatever process, we're going through. We're kind of clearing everything and purging everything and letting go of a lot of old paradigm patterns. And we are healing ancestral patterns and also coming to terms with what we have been doing for lifetimes and what sort of patterning we came in with. But also what our gifts and abilities are, and what we should keep and maybe take with us. And so we have inherited our biological family energies. Very often we notice it and either rebel against it or decide that we're going to just go right along with it, or sometimes we digress and take it a step down. And so pushing the envelope is also, looking at some of those patternings, looking at, what behavior patterns we might have picked up from our parents, and, what we might have formed as a belief system about ourselves, and what subpersonalities we've created in reaction and response to a very sort of superficial world that we grew up in, where, appearances and status and what's on the surface is more important. I always like to joke that, if they had a guidance counselor coming in to point out the shamans and high priestesses and, those that were really here to do really wonderful things, with energy, there wouldn't be so many lost people. And it's difficult because, we're rehabilitating, most of our adulthood is healing from our childhood. And, maybe we can just speed up the process and, just understand that, a simple hello, a recognition and a validation amongst each other can help us to, take that, next leap. And if we can hold our hands through this journey and be that encouragement, it'll certainly make up for where we might not feel fully accepted. And it doesn't matter because, think of the angelics, think of Gaia, think of spirit, think of all the validation that is coming from, the world that needs us and needs our participation. Our purpose is directly linked with the planet. Nobody has a more special purpose than another. There might be bigger agreements, but all of our DNA is linked directly with the stargates on the planet. And as we're in this window period right now, where the natural stargates are opening, it's also an opportunity to expand. And so there's things that we can do that will, shut us down, and things that we can do to rise to the occasion. And sometimes it means, moving through a lot of blocks. I think people find that a spiritual path isn't just meditating and feeling the light and fluffy, blissful euphoria. It can be like really intense, particularly because, the frequency fences and seals that were put in our DNA are something that we have to move through. We have to move through the thickness of the veil to get to the other side. But once we do, we remember our galactic consciousness, we remember our origins, and we feel a certain enthusiasm to, participate in this process. And so pushing the envelope, is to grab your biggest vision and dream and continually remind your creative channels of what that is. Like I said, and fleshing everything else out. And, also, getting oneself checked out. Are there implants? Are there things, in your astrology chart that might help you to know? Are there different things that, can help, one to take the next step? I think the greatest priority, though, is to understand that self-knowledge, self-awareness, and doing the inner work is everything. Particularly, with a lot of the stuff that we're presented with. We need discernment. When things like disclosure happen on the planet, we need to know the difference between what's good for us and what isn't. And if we look outside of ourselves too much, of course, information and instructions can get in our creative channels that isn't about what we came here to do. And so with a little bit of that inner work and creating visions and dreams that are good for us and the planet, and being willing to take action and speak those words with confidence, knowing that our voice is like a magic wand and it can manifest anything, that is where we've crossed the threshold of being beneath the veil and in the old paradigm energies that could get us further and further away from ourselves. And so just know adversity is an absolute blessing. I've lived a life of nothing but adversity, I feel like. And I don't say that as a victim. I say that as a proud warrior who had to always remind myself that it's just another day at the office. Dr. Dream and I have had nothing but assaults and attacks since we've been together. And the greatest thing is our sense of humor, and our ability to recognize that love overrides all this stuff. I mean, we've heard everything under the sun about why we shouldn't be together, how dangerous it is, and what might be, operating behind the scenes. And it's very disempowering to have everybody tell you what to do and what to think. And sometimes, even though I think people have good intentions, it's important for us to step back and ask ourselves, well, what is our truth? And so we stepped back and we realized that we're not doing very good with the breakup, with resentment, bitterness, and distancing. We ended up staying in touch every day. We ended up texting each other how much we love each other, sharing a lot of tears and getting closer, and then we just realized, love is more powerful than all this stuff. And our love for ourselves is number one, because that is a given, that's always there. And when we give ourselves that gift, and there is a compliment in this world, that's wonderful. But without that compliment, it's amazing to just experience really feeling into the self. And that's what the 4 elements, earth, air, fire, water, are all about. And not negating or judging any part of who we are. It's really time to consolidate and invite everything to become one within ourselves, so that we can send out a frequency of archetypal harmony. Because as I talked about us inheriting biological stuff from our parents, we've inherited archetypal patterns and dramas and things related to galactic wars that keep us at odds with each other. And all sorts of things have happened throughout our history for the very purpose of keeping us conquered and divided. So it's really time to clean the slate and recognize, the universal love, the fact that we are a global family, the fact that we all have beautiful gifts and abilities to offer at this time. And that's what's really great. And another thing with pushing the envelope is that you just go and do it. Even if it's just a hobby on the side, even if it's something you just bring to work and share with your colleagues while you're getting coffee, even if it's a corporate job, it doesn't matter. We're embodied in our purpose. It doesn't matter what we do, in our physical environment. It's the quality of who we are and how we show up for ourselves, for others, for our families. And there are compromises, but they don't have to be something we live with forever. We can start to put the dream and vision in and understand that once our creative channels receives it, with the full-on confidence that we have the support and backing of the universe, there's nothing we can't do. And the other thing is sometimes we do create a plan and things don't go according to plan. And we might feel like failures. And this is when we really have to understand that there's other things that our higher self or our unconscious self has in store for us. And we have to pay attention and look at the people who show up, look at the things that jump out at us, and recognize that there might be synchronicities taking you into something far better than what you previously had thought. So, with a lot of dipping back into difficulty and challenge and finding that we're rising even higher and bigger than before, because sometimes the deeper we go, the higher we fly. I think that's a Beatles quote. These are some amazing times, and so I just hope, we can really be of support. I myself do astro charts and tarot. I do clairvoyant readings. I do chakra readings. Him and I do combined sessions together. And it's really geared towards self-awareness and advancing a person's knowledge of the self, and really putting the things on the treadmill that need more exercise, our intuitive muscle. We have to understand that whatever we don't think we have or that doesn't work just might be something we haven't exercised very often or for long enough. And once we start to get the ball rolling, the muscle starts to increase. And when it comes to just really difficult situations where we might feel like we do need a savior or we need something to come along and give us that extra push, we just, simply have to remember that we just have to meet it halfway, similar to, healing our physical bodies. The immune system is not going to do everything for us if we keep trashing ourselves. But if we make the simple choices to just change, certain things and dial into a healthier lifestyle, change our belief systems and just take that one step forward, just at least saying, I'm ready. It's amazing that the universe will pick up the rest of the slack, and those things will show up for us, and they will heal us and help us restore. Same thing on the planet. If we want assistance from benevolent races, if we want things to really be cleaned up, we have to take a step up and show, these beings and higher consciousness and spirit that we're ready by doing our part. And, based on the law of attraction, we start to move away from the things that grip us and trap us and keep us locked in the world of maybe addiction or matrix programming and thinking. And we start to unfold into the greatness of all that we are. And in a lot of ways, we haven't even begun yet. So when people read about conspiracy or just, oh my God, the Queen and the royal family and the Vatican and the governments, it's also a great time of liberation of saying, you know what? These aren't systems we should have ever given our power to. It's time to call it back. And isn't that something to celebrate? And, so the doom and gloom can be replaced with a feeling of total liberation, but we have to be willing to push the envelope. We have to be willing to just take that first leap so that everything else can line up for us. And it's that willingness and just that simple devotion that's going to start to line up, all that magic. And it's amazing because sometimes we think, a spiritual path is about perfection, and it's not. We just have to understand what's unconscious and put light on it so that it can become conscious. And when we fill all unconscious spaces with consciousness, we recognize our multidimensional body, we upgrade our DNA, we get in touch with our spiritual abilities, and we recognize that spirit has dominion over matter, and we don't need to suffer, we don't have to feel lack. We are way too advanced for that, and it's time to just really blossom into that awareness. And so I'm just grateful because everybody has signed up for this, and we are very much the leaders and light workers in this world right now. And empowering other people to do the same, is great because empowerment is leadership, and all of us, should be taking on that role, even if it's something small, just, a willingness that somebody else sees as an example, it spreads. And we're all embodied in our purpose. There's nothing more we need to do than love ourselves and be ourselves and read the signs and know that we've got the greatest support system ever, with so much that's just waiting for us to, really embrace the process, no matter how painful and difficult. People climb the Himalayas, people birth babies, people sign up for pain. It's the pain we don't feel we signed up for that we resent. But remember, it's showing up for a reason, and it is helping us grow and expand. So.
Wow. So a little bit of backstory, if you don't know us. In August of last year, we ran into some really heavy energies. By September, we stopped doing our radio shows. We were doing 3 radio shows a week. We were well on the road to 1 million listens. And the interference got so intense for us that we had to just table the radio shows and focus on what was really going on. In the process of all that and understanding how much energies were focused on interfering with our path and our mission, so at one point in our process we understood that, but then come October, November, we had forgotten that those weren't our energies, that wasn't what we were about, and we kind of owned it, that this is just what was going on. And on Thanksgiving last year, we broke up. We've been together for 3.5 years, and it was a very difficult thing. So I know when Laura was talking about it, we hadn't quite set up that whole scenario for you. But for the 2 months that we were broken up, air quotes on purpose, we expressed our love to each other multiple times throughout the day, had no interest from breaking from any of that, and it was a clear sign to us that the energies that we were experiencing that took us to that decision weren't our energies. But having made that decision and being broken up, the energies that we were experiencing at that point, those were our energies, and neither one of us wanted to break from the other. And so just in the past few weeks, we said this is ridiculous. And so for us, in a sense, that's pushing the envelope. Anyone that's broken up, anyone that's gone through that, the heartache, the everything, I mean, to really keep a relationship vibrant, viable, sustainable, loving, fresh, you really do need to look at this concept of pushing the envelope. I think anyone you know who's been married for any, or in a relationship, a dedicated monogamous relationship for any amount of time has, really stepped up to the plate of what that means energetically. And it's a choice. Just like so much of what our embodied human experience is, it's a choice. What are we going to do with this? How are we going to handle it? What's real? What's not? How do we discern the difference? And a lot of this, I just love, we're so in sync that as she was talking, I'm like, oh wow, I'm not even going to have to talk about that now. But Laura was talking about belief systems, and I believe that there's no mistake that the initials for belief systems are BS. And when we're first identifying what our belief systems are, I think it's important to ask ourselves, is this a belief system I want to hold on to and continue to own, or is this a belief system that's BS? And then weeding through that. So who are you? What are you here to do? What is the why of your existence? These are the foundational questions that give you the solidified foundation of being able to push the envelope. As I was standing over there in my socks, I was thinking, if I tried to push on something solid right now with my socks on, I would just slide right backwards. I wouldn't have any traction. I wouldn't be able to move anything that gave me any resistance forward. So what would I do? Well, I'd put my shoes back on with the rubber soles, and I would give myself that solid foundation to do what I need to do to push something forward. It's the same way with pushing the envelope. You're not going to have a very powerful experience of pushing the envelope if the foundation of who you are is not so solid. And so those questions, who am I? What am I here to do? What is the why of my existence? Become key questions in knowing the direction that you're to push the envelope. So I can only speak from my own experience, and that's what I know as truth. Okay? I can tell you something I read, but if I haven't put it into practice, I'm just, blowing smoke here. So my own experience gives me the guidelines on really how to do this and what this is about. Right now, I'm in the midst of, we're all in the midst of 2015, not just me, but my 2015 revolves around what I call the tour of love. And I'm on the road full time, going from city to city, doing talks like this, doing energetic experiences like the one we're offering tonight, the Universal Love Galactivation. This is our 204th Galactivation experience that we've done. I know that that's what I'm here for. I know that when I do something 204 times, it's got to be directly related to why I exist. I know by the feeling that I get. So when I look at what it takes or what it means for me to push the envelope, I look at these energetic experiences that I do. I look at the holistic healing practice that I do, and I identified that I was able to do this, whatever this is, okay? I was able to work this energy. I was able to have this impact. I was able to have this effect. That was yesterday. Today, there's no resting on the laurels of yesterday. And on the other side of that, if yesterday was a crappy day, we don't have to have a crappy day today either, okay? Today's a fresh new day, and we get to decide how it's going to be and what we're going to do. So for me, if in my process of pushing the envelope yesterday gave me an experience that was expansive, gave me a reflection that told me I was having the impact that I'm here to have, then today my question for myself is, how can I do that and step it up? That's pushing the envelope. It may also be, and this isn't the truth about my yesterday, but it could also be that yesterday was the worst day I've ever experienced, and pushing the envelope becomes, how do I keep that from happening today? What are the lessons of that? Because I don't want to go through that again. And so, I love it, Laura talking about it's the inner journey, and if we spend all this time looking outside of us, and who's going to save us? What ET race is going to come down and save our poor little planet and these poor little humans that inhabit it? We're really not in the, as far as I'm concerned, based on my experience, we're not in the right energetic. Okay, and we're talking about energy dynamics here. It's you're going to save you. You're going to create the world, the environment, the energetic that you're comfortable in, that you want to live in, and not just live. Because living is, we've been doing that, but with lots of challenges, with lots of resistance and everything like that. How can we live in a right way that gives us the grace and ease in this experience that we deserve to have be part of our daily life? And so that's another area for me to push the envelope. As a multiple modality practitioner, I've set it up pretty well for myself because I'm surrounded with crystal bowls and Tibetan bowls and essential oils and flower and gem essences and tuning forks and I mean the list goes on and on. There's 16 or 17 different tools and modalities that I currently work with, and at the moment am traveling with most of them in a travel trailer where everything's within my reach. This is the best. Before I had an office and a 4-bedroom house and this and that, and it was like, oh, where is that modality? And now it's like, oh, look, it's right there. I don't even have to move to reach for it. And so for me, this is the next step, is I know that I'm here to be a beacon of love. Okay, in the last 3 months, I have clearly identified my role in this embodied human reality is for me to be a beacon of love and not stop, but to continue to expand that energetic beacon that I am. Okay, I'm not special. Hold on. I'm no more special than any other person in this room, and we're all incredibly special. And we all have gifts and talents and abilities, and we all have, whether we realize it or not, in here, ready to be unlocked for us, the why of our existence. And once we tap into it, the things that seem like a stretch, like me spending all of 2015 on the road, going from city to city, not knowing how many people will show up, not knowing any of that, and yet knowing one thing that is my foundation, that has me standing here solid, and that is the why of my existence is to be a beacon of love. So I know that by turning myself over to that, by allowing that I'm going to be taken care of. Okay? But I will share with you that every single day, this is my challenge. Knowing, believing, having faith that I'm going to be taken care of. My old monkey brain wants to be, like, oh, I got to have a business plan. I got to have this. I got to have that. And I have a plan and I have a strategy with the tour, but it's not so much about the business of it. It's more about the energy of it. And my leap of faith used to be a leap of faith. Then it was like a jump of faith. And then it was like a little skip of faith. And now it's like, most of the time, it's a step of faith. It's not so freaking scary as it used to be with the leap of faith, okay? I guess I've been at it long enough that I've worked that energy into an energetic that's comfortable for me. But every single day I work on that. Every single day, I offer myself the opportunity to slip into my lowest common denominator, which is fear. Must be everyone's lowest common denominator. And to be fearful about money, where's it coming in, how I'm going to pay for this, how I'm going to do that. I mean, I don't know. If you're like me and you start down that path of brain process, okay, because that certainly isn't heart process. That's all happening in your brain. It is a windy road with lots of hairpin turns. Can you tell I drive a lot for a living? With lots of hairpin turns, and it's uncomfortable, and you can get lost in it. And how much of a beacon of love can I be if I'm sitting in a place of fear? And what am I really going to attract if that's what I'm energizing? If that's the dynamic that I'm energetically holding on to, what is possibly going to come my way that I want? Well, I'll tell you, a lesson, okay? Because everything gives us exactly what we need in the moment. And that moment that I don't allow myself to say, yeah, Dr. Dream, it's just a little step of faith. And you've done it before. And, you know, back in the day when you first started doing this, that leap of faith was over a huge, you know, it was like Evel Knievel trying to jump the Grand Canyon. And now it's just, you know, stepping over a little something that is an obstacle that has the possibility to get in the way. But the invitation for me to lower my energy is there in every single moment. And I got to believe we're not so different. And the invitation for you to lower your energy is there in every single moment also. We walk up to a group. We want to fit into the energetic that's happening, kind of old paradigm we do. And what do? We find the lowest common denominator that we can slip in. I played that game for a while. I think we've all played that game for a while. Now I walk up to a group, I walk up to people. My energy is inviting them to join me up here. I don't care if we're talking about low vibe stuff and all this. I'm holding on to join me up here. You know, let's be at this level. How do I do it? I do it just because I carry an energy that I'm very open to blasting out there, and it's all about love. So that's the first invitation, and it's an energy. So it's not, you know, it's not tied into anything. Some people feel it. Some people feel it. They don't know what they're feeling, and some people have such filters up they don't feel it at all. It doesn't matter to me. What the response is for me being a beacon of love isn't my concern. I don't need the validation. Oh, Dr. Dream, you're such a great beacon of love. Oh, thank you. I've been waiting to hear that. No, sorry. I mean, yeah, I've been that way as Mark. but now in this energetic, it doesn't hold anything for me. I'm so aware of the energy that I carry and what I'm here to do that if we were talking about it earlier, if someone gets triggered by it because it challenges where their seat of consciousness is at, great, I planted a seed. I'm not here to make people happy. I mean, I should rephrase that. It is, I love to make people happy, okay? But I'm not here to just please people, okay? I'm here to be who I am and to be authentic. And what I ask back is for you to be who you are and for you to be authentic. And then we're playing on an even playing field. Then we're here together. Then there's no hidden stuff that we need to tiptoe around. Okay, that's why we can come into a space like this with some people we've known for a very long time and some people we've just met or will meet and share from our hearts and share the vulnerable aspects of what it is for us to be in this embodied human experience. Because it's not so far off from what we're all dealing with and experiencing. It's challenging. Okay, we didn't come here for some cakewalk of a human experience. You know, I often say to Laura, next time, you know, maybe we can have that sort of reality Club Med vacation for a little bit. Like maybe we could just embody and be in bliss for a lifetime instead of this. But you know what? Maybe not. Maybe it really is just about coming here, being the humans that we're being and taking it to the highest level, pushing that envelope and just it's not even. Sometimes I get an energetic back when I talk to people about pushing the envelope, and I feel that they're looking at it from the perspective of comparing their inspired action or their action to what someone else is doing, okay? Big trap there, never works out for you, always hits you like a 2x4 on the side of the head. Learn that one over and over again. It's not about comparing us to anyone else. Okay, so your inspired action that moves into you pushing the envelope, only you know how valuable that is. Only you know, because none of us are inside your head. None of us know what every single life experience has given you that has made you divinely perfect to do what you're here to do. Okay? I can stand up here and say life is challenging. It's not been easy. But I have no idea what your life has been like. I have no idea what that translates to you as far as like what's not easy. Okay, and I'm not comparing anything. I just know it takes a heck of a lot of courage for us to be human in this experience and to be taking it to the highest level. And here you are at the New Earth Expo. You already know that. You're already striving to take it to that highest level. You already know what's important. I've got to believe that you're here in your own way pushing the envelope. Because why would you be at something where people are talking about this stuff and sharing sound healings and crystals and amazing techniques and modalities that work for them, so all they want to do is show it to you? Why would you come to something like that if you weren't completely committed and dedicated to what it means to be human at the highest level? And that's pushing the envelope. That's taking a stand and waving a flag to source. I love this. Every time we think and do anything, it's an opportunity to wave a flag to source and say, hey, in case you forgot, here's what I'm all about. Okay? When I don't let people be the victim in a conversation with me, okay, lay out their victim experience for me, I don't allow that because I refuse to own the victim mentality. But if I sit there and listen all nicely and congenial to you and don't say what my truth is, and I walk away, I've validated that you're the victim, and if you're the victim, by golly, I can be the victim. So I won't go there. So I'll call people out on it. I figure if you're in front of me and you're having this conversation with me, you don't want the fluff, and I'm not the fluff giver anyway. Okay? I love you, and I'm here to be the beacon of love. And part of that is sharing my truth with you. And if I hear you say something to me in a session, of course, but even in just a conversation, and it has me constricting, the greatest beacon of love that I can be is to call you out on it. And I find myself saying to people a lot of times, wow, you just said that, and that has me constricting. And, you know, it sounds like that's something that's in your regular script. How does that make you feel? That's about as gentle as I can be with it, you know, and I think that's pretty good. It's just saying, wow, your energy is doing this to me because my body is a barometer and I'm feeling it. So I'm interested in like how that works for you. How does that energetic dynamic work for you? Are you aware of it? Are you, you know, and I just figure if people are in front of me, they're in front of me to hear my truth. And if they weren't ready for my truth, they would never make it in front of me or see this video or be in a session with me. This is the responsibility that I have. It's a responsibility to me. It's a responsibility to you. It's a responsibility to source. That's me pushing the envelope. Okay? That's me saying there's a whole lot more to this experience. And I don't know how long I'm going to be here. And I do know that every single moment is an opportunity. And that opportunity is to be that beacon of love. That opportunity is to assist people. That opportunity is to energize this planet, to energize this experience, and just to be sending it out and sending it out and sending it out. Now, not everyone came here specifically to be a beacon of love. Okay, my dear Laura came here to be a warrior with a beacon of love that is very present in that energetic. Okay, so again, it's not about comparisons. We all came here to play a different and yet specific role that we have been perfectly conditioned by our own experiences, by our own process, by our own understanding of self and this experience to play that role. And that's what I'm most interested in. Laura, why don't you come up and let's give people an opportunity if you have any questions. Again, this is an unusual kind of interaction for us, if you've seen us in the past or anything like that. And so this is fun for us, and we thought we'd give you the opportunity to ask some questions if you have some questions. And if not, we'll take the opportunity to ask each other some questions, which have not been planned out. So I'm hoping you guys have some questions. Does anyone have any questions about how we run energies, about the nature of our reality, about anything that we can answer or share with you, or anything that came up in this experience? Yes?
You had to come to a point in your life to switch from corporate world to the reality you're living today. Can you tell us a little bit about that transition, and maybe one or two things that kind of pushed you over and made the final decision to live in this reality?
Absolutely. I'll take this first. The experience for me was one day I figuratively, well, kind of literally and figuratively, woke up in Sedona, Arizona. I'd been there for 8 years, 7 years, something like that. I had a big house in Oak Creek Canyon. I had sole custody of my daughter. I drove the vehicles I wanted to drive. I traveled where I wanted to travel. I was making a lot of money. Living in $1 million house and making very good money, web development company, the whole thing. And I had a moment where I woke up out of all that and said, oh my gosh, look at this. The way I just described it to you, I'm like, I've made it. And then I'm like, huh, really? So this is how it feels when you've made it? Because I'm not feeling fulfilled like I felt I should feel fulfilled, having made it based on my programming from my childhood. And I said, so it's not about building websites for people? I mean, I had rationalized that I'm helping people. I'm helping them make money. I'm helping them grow. Toward the end of having that business, I would sit down with my clients and I would say, well, we got a proposal here. It's $25,000, $30,000, whatever it is. But here's the thing. We ought to identify why you're blocking abundance before we do this. Otherwise, let's get $25,000 cash and let's sit here and burn it together, because that's as good as it's going to do. If you don't address what's going on inside of you, there's nothing I can facilitate outside of you that's going to have the impact you want. I got varying degrees of responses with that. And I decided I needed to leave the business. I went to Burning Man that year. It was a sober year at Burning Man. I don't go anymore, but that year was a sober year. And I asked Source how I could live in my life purpose. Okay, I'd already been living life. I'd already learned how to make it comfortable, learned abundance, learned excess, learned all that stuff. I wanted to know how to live in my life purpose. Dream the Biggest Dream was presented to me that week at Burning Man. That's my program. Dr. Dream is what they started calling me after 2 conferences of presenting that. I went on the circuit right away, 2nd conference, 3rd conference. They're like, you're Dr. Dream. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of got a nice ring to it. That was my break from the matrix. That was my break from, okay, I've played the game by the rules that I was told were the rules of this game. But it was the rules of a game that wasn't the game I came here to play. Or actually, I should rephrase that. It was the game I came here to play until I was 38, 39 years old. And at that point, my game expanded, my role here expanded, because it needed to, because I needed to be more expansive, in this experience.
And the body is the great teacher. Symptoms, we have to understand that they're not ailments or diagnoses of a condition or a disease as much as it's our body sounding an alarm and saying, will you please listen to me? I have a very important message, and because you didn't have a chance to process it and have the epiphany, I'm going to create a really annoying rash or something, or a really annoying pain in your knee until you can locate what is stored in your body because you didn't get it up here. And so that's kind of where my breakthroughs were. I refused to go to doctors. And even if something was terribly wrong, I'm like, Mom, you're not going to take me to the doctor. And I would go on these deep inner journeys to find the root of everything. And just to move away from that, breakthroughs. I didn't really have to have a breakthrough because I never really hit the corporate world, but I landed in a family. I'm the great-granddaughter of President Eisenhower. So I grew up in a presidential family, so talk about expectations. Everybody, all my cousins and siblings, were definitely on the path of really just doing well in life. Obviously, I'm not turning out to be a politician. I'm turning out to be a pissed off person at politics and all things governmental, and I talk about the things that are, behind the scenes. So I guess to answer this question, because there was a big break, was to be raised in a family like that with expectations. First of all, that I probably wouldn't have a head of dreads, which I used to have, or tattoos. That would probably make my mother a little bit happier. On top of all these different things where I was pushing the envelope at the age of 4. I would tell my mom, all I want is freedom. I have to free everybody. I'm here to free, pretty much the human race. And I had Eisenhower visiting me. He was a spirit guide, and I'm like, why does this bald man keep hanging around my bed? And Caroline, my sister, are you seeing this? And I was getting all these downloads about my mission and my purpose. But I noticed, in the family, it's not that they didn't have a mission or purpose. It was like the timing wasn't there. And the timing was I guess, preparing for me, because nobody talks about UFOs or extraterrestrials. Nobody really talks about the deeper layers of the military-industrial complex until I showed up in the family. And so, of course, that challenged everybody. And everybody kind of wants me to shut up and go down the path of, let's just be happy we're, on the Eisenhower thing, and maybe ride the coattails a little bit. And I'm like, there's no way. I'm here as a warrior. He's my spirit guide, and we're going to kick some butt. And that's what ended up happening. And I think, none of this was an actual dialogue. It was all very telepathic. But there was a tradition in the Eisenhower family that all the Eisenhower women would go to the International Ball in New York City and represent the United States. And it was the full picture with the military escort and the whatever the other person's called. And the rest of the pamphlet was, a person from each state and people from all over the world. But the United States, representative, it's been tradition that the Eisenhower women always do it. Well, when I was 18 and it got to be my turn, or 17, I couldn't do it. There was something in me that just shut down and said, I'm not going to be a debutante. I'm not going to be handed into society so that I can meet the Rockefellers and have some money of wealth. I do not want to spread in People magazine. I don't want any of that. Plus I was in the mountains and I was just processing my mission, and I was going through the underworld, and I didn't want a bunch of cameras on me. People might think, why would you blow off that opportunity? Well, I went when my sisters went. There were lines of people out the door. There was press. There was a week, of putting the cafe, outfit on and sitting and drinking tea with everybody. And we're not a trust fund family. We're certainly not what I think people expect. I don't have mounds of money I'm sitting on at all. I have to work my butt off raising 2 kids. I'm a mother of twin boys who are 16. So I think a lot of people have a projection, and maybe people expected me to turn out differently. But when it comes down to it and you lift off all those layers, how could it be any different than somebody in the family aligning with Eisenhower to finish the job of awakening humanity to what the military-industrial complex really means, what the truth is about extraterrestrials, what we need to do, and what the new strategies are. And so I didn't really get a chance to blow off the rest of it because I've been rebellious since the beginning. And so basically, it was my whole life has been a transition, and leading their awareness out of some of that into maybe understanding me. But it meant that everybody was sort of we don't know what to do with her. She's just a freak. And not really sure about the stuff that was coming out of my mouth. And the thing is about pushing the envelope, I might not have been able to really have strong bonds with them, over the years when I was really in the thick of it. There might have been a lot of silence at the dinner table. I might have been interrupted pretty much most of my life. And no, my self-esteem was not nurtured whatsoever. Never really had confidence about what I was here to do, except for the burning fire within me that would not shut up or go away. But what it really, comes down to is being true to yourself, being true to that gut instinct, not backing down from it, not worrying about what anybody thinks. Because if you walk a path of integrity and you have unconditional love and you love those that are in your environment, just because they don't get you doesn't mean that you're hurting them or you're doing something wrong, or vice versa. I have no judgment on them. But what it's come down to now is, now I go home and I visit family, all the Eisenhowers, they basically pretty much give me high fives. They are so relieved that somebody's handling all the rumors about extraterrestrials in Eisenhower, and somebody's handling all these emails that we get constantly about all this stuff, that I've gotten more recognition and appreciation from them in the last year than I have my whole life. So what ended up being me not making sense to everybody, me sort of being the controversial person, me not walking the path of maybe the politician or the person that wanted to have status, to be proud of holding, the family name, scaring the piss out of them, going into very, very dangerous places. They've seen me thrive, and they see my sense of peace and my sense of purpose, and they all have my back. And if I'm ever in trouble, or I'm challenged by people who attack me and assault me, they do things to make sure that people know that they love me and accept me and appreciate this mission. So that's just a testimony to walking your truth, walking your path, and weathering the storms, or moving through the zones where it does feel isolating and it feels like everybody's left your side or nobody's really there for you at all. But it does come back around. We're planting amazing seeds, and as long as we have the integrity, as long as there's something in it that makes us better people and improves the world and makes it a better place, how can anybody judge that at the end of the day? So this is what the new paradigm is, and moving into it.
So I'm looking at the time, and we've gone just a few minutes over. So as much as I would love to just have us all sit here in a circle and chat and everything like that, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you. To thank you for having this be important enough for you to take your time and listen to us and share your energy with us. You haven't said anything, but you're sharing your energy with us, and we appreciate it. And to you, Laura, this our first time being back on the same stage, as it were, together for a while. I've missed this, and you are a warrior of the highest light, and a beacon of love to boot. And so you're the complete package, certainly for me. And I love you, and I love what you're about, and I love being on this path and mission with you. And I love all of you, and I love what you're all about. And if it's important for me to know what you're about, I know that you'll reach out and connect with me. I do 15-minute no-charge consultations. You can book them on my website. Everything is pretty much linked off of touroflove.com, www.touroflove.com. Our events, everything that we're doing, we've got a lot of great events coming up. I've got 6 or 7 events next week alone. So we hope that you'll follow us. We hope that you'll join our newsletter. We send out a newsletter each week. It's got Laura's astrological update for the week, and our events, and information on essential oils and all sorts of things. The bottom line is we really are here for you.
Yep, and you can find me on Facebook, Laura Eisenhower, and my website, you might not remember it, we do have cards, is cosmicgaiasophia.com. You can look under the readings link and see all my services. There's a lot that's actually not there yet that I need to update. I do relationship readings. I do 5 different charts for relationships, and I do a few charts, for the individual, natal charts, progress charts, transits, and tarot. Been doing that for 25 years. Calluses on my fingers. Working planetary energy, and just clairvoyant readings, looking at the chakras and helping us to graduate into our galactic chakras. And basically, I use astrology as a tool to help us to get into the center, so that we can move away from the wheel and move away from the tree of good and evil and all this duality, and get back to really activating our DNA, creating sacred union, and being back in the world where unity consciousness is the dimensional landscape that is surrounding.
Yes.
Yes.
So as a addition to this event, we'll be up in this room tonight at 7 o'clock. We'll be doing a Universal Love Galactivation. I have to look, but I think it's our 204th. And powerful, energetic. We'll have lots of sound and vibration, lots of healing available to happen. Again, it's your choice. I can't do any healing for you, but if you're on board with it, we can do a lot together. If you're not able to make it, we have some of the rose frequency oils and mister sprays up here. If you're able to make it, you can get that later. And then also, we're in town all day tomorrow. And we'll be here at the Temple of Light, out back over here, doing our Dream Team sessions. And they're an hour long, and if you'd like to book one with us, it is tag team healing modalities and energetics. And Laura and I work very closely together, and between her intuitive astrology and clairvoyance and cards, and then my multiple modalities, as the energies come up, we're able to move them right out. So when you walk out of this experience, it's not like, oh my gosh, I have a lot to process. It's like, wow, what just happened in there? And so it is one of the highest forms of what we're here to do together. And so if you would like one of those tomorrow, let us know. And hopefully you'll be back here with us tonight. And if not, I'm sure that we'll stay connected along the way. And thank you all very much for being here.
Thank you and safe travel.
Do you want to say something?
Well, I just wanted, to just thank him. He gave me a very nice thank you, and I'm so grateful that he loves me enough to have gotten back together with me. It was a living nightmare, and I just, it's going to be hard to be away from him when he goes on this tour of love, but let's all, give him a lot of support. And if you know people in different places that he's going to be sure to pass on the message to them and spread the word, because he brings just so much light. And a galactivation is something that it spreads and it covers the planet, and it's just so necessary. And you're just so genuine, and you really just engage people on the heart level. And sometimes I've never seen anything like it, what this man does. And it's a huge testimony. It's not easy for men right now, trying to figure out who they are with the divine feminine coming back into power. And,
that's for sure.
But we are finding balance. It's all about unity. Nobody's taking over anybody. We're really learning to come into balance. But, thank you for your integrity and being genuine and being real for the rest of us. So
thank you, sweet. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for coming.